Well, it's a Workbench Wednesday. It's Saturday. No, it's not. It's Wednesday, the 21st of April, and we're on to Workbench Wednesday number 5. Gosh, hasn't 5 weeks passed quickly? Thank you for joining me again. If you are there, thumbs up. Let me know. Let me see if I can see anyone. That's always good. So yeah, how's your week been? Have you done anything exciting? Been anywhere good? Since last week, we had lovely weather on Thursday, and it was my birthday, and we went out. Stephen and I went out. We went to the Himalayan Gardens and Sculpture Park, and it was wonderful. The weather was so kind, and yeah, the Sculpture Park's amazing. There's so many beautiful things to see. And it was just a lovely day to sort of potter around, be out and about again at last, be out and around, have a little potter around, sit on a bench, watch the world go by, look at the beautiful views we had. It's just really nice. It was just a really nice day. It was wonderful. It was a lovely drive there, lovely drive back. We had a nice lunch. What more can you ask for? It was fantastic. So yeah, all was good. Let's see. I can't see anybody's messages, but that doesn't mean to say you're not messaging. Here we go. Can I see anything? Anyway, I'm gonna crack on. Did anyone see All That Glitters last night? All That Glitters. Oh, it's getting better. I did enjoy last night's program. I enjoyed watching the things they were making. I thought that was really good. And I thought they gave them slightly more realistic timelines for creating things. Although, you know, give them more time, they can sort of make them even more gorgeous than they were. But I thought they did a great job. I was sorry to see Kim go. I thought her work was beautiful. And well done to Hugo, because that little pendant he made, that bespoke pendant, was lovely. It was really lovely. Now, what I wanted to talk to you today about was polishing and finishing your pieces. And I know we talk about an awful lot about the processes, and during many workshops I've taught in the past, we spend so long making a piece. There's never enough time to kind of give as much detail as I would really like into the polishing and finishing. Although it's a really, really important part of the process, and we shouldn't underestimate how much work you should put into the planning of your finish and the quality of your finish, the types of finishes you want to create. So yeah, it's really quite important that you give all that your thought and consideration. Now, I sat down to write my notes for today. I've got 7 pages of notes from myself that I wrote myself, and I'm sure there's extra little bits that I thought of as well that I wanted to add in. So goodness knows whether I'm going to get through all of this. I might end up chopping this into 2 different sessions to get through all the detail I really wanted to talk to you about. So goodness knows, let's crack on. So polishing and finishing. So you spend so much time making a beautiful piece, and it's time to start polishing your piece. But as I just said, really the planning of your polishing should begin right from the design stage. What sort of finishes you want in it? Do you want it a satin finish? Do you want it high-end mirror finish? Do you want a highly textured area? Do you want to patina that, or do you want to leave it sort of not patinaed? Again, all these finishes and polishes should be thought through at a very early stage, because I think it's going to matter with how you roll your clay out. To be absolutely honest, it's going to really matter with how you roll your clay out from the start. Now, if your design is going to contain a mirror shine finish section or a whole piece, whatever that be, then it's really important that you look carefully at your clay. If you're using rehydrated or reconditioned clay, then it's important that this clay is in tip-top condition, so that as you do roll it out, you've got no dings or little debris bits in there, or any creases or lines or folds. If it's a little bit on the dry side, you're going to get these little creases and lines and folds in it. Brand new clay, fresh out the packet, should give you a beautiful flawless finish, but that's not to say that you can't end up with sort of hairline cracks in it. If you start folding your clay, then you can end up with these what look like very hairline cracks in it. So it's really important that you train your eyes to look at the surface of that clay, because it will really make a difference if you're aiming for this mirror shine finish. Because if there's anything in there at all, I tell you, mirror shine is going to pop it up. This is why silver clay works beautifully with textures, and texture will hide a multitude of sins. It can sort of really disguise any slight cracks or flaws or little bits of dings or marks in the surfaces. It can really, you can lose all those. But when it comes to getting a mirror shine finish or even a satin finish, that can be just as telling if you've got any flaws or marks in your clay too. So whether it's a clean satin finish on something flat, or whether it's a mirror shine finish, you really need to look carefully at that clay. And I kind of stressing this because I do think it's really important from the point of rolling out your clay. So once you've rolled out your clay, whatever it is you're making, if you're just making one single piece or if you're making a little component part, you're going to cut out that little component part and set it aside to dry. Okay, so we've set our component parts to dry, and then we're ready to move on to starting to get these pieces together. So they've dried, so we want to refine the edges. So refining the edges could be using files, it could be using a sanding grit, it could be using, and this is one of my little favorite tools at the moment, it's just a little bit of funky foam, and I'm quite liking using this little bit of funky foam. I use it around the edges, and it just kind of smooths out any file lines or any harsh corners and things. So just a little bit of funky foam does the job really well. Or even a wet wipe, you know, you can use wet wipes as well. The only thing with wet wipes, it does take off an awful lot of the material onto the piece. It takes an awful lot of your silver clay onto the wet wipe. Now you need to save your little wet wipes. I've got a bag here that I keep down below, full of all my wet wipes, whether I've cleaned my hands or used a wet wipe to clean up a piece. All of those wet wipes gets put into this little bag at the side, and eventually they'll get sent off to the refinery because, you know, I waste nothing, and one day I'll get money for those, which is really good. So yeah, refining your pieces to get a really nice finish on them. So again, if you've ended up with a little dink or a little mark in your piece, whether it's a satin piece that you're going to polish to this satin finish, or a piece you're going to get to this mirror shine finish, if you've got a little ding or a mark in there whatsoever, anything, then it's really going to show and tell. So how to deal with those? If it's a tiny little dink, then you can fill it with a little bit of paste or a little bit of your syringe and then just smooth it through. I generally use a wet finger just to smooth over that area, just to get rid of the excess, and that kind of does the job really quickly. But you can use rubber tip tools. I try to avoid using paintbrushes if I'm trying to fill it in, because that you end up with brush strokes then. So I'm trying to eliminate brush strokes. So a smooth wet finger, or again this little bit of what's it called, funky foam. Funky foam does the job really well too, just smoothing areas out. If you've got quite a big ding in there, then I would use your lump clay to fill that little dink. So when it comes to filling a bigger area, put a little bit of water on the main body of the piece, take a pinch of your little silver clay, pack it into the area you want to fill, and then again smooth it out with either rubber tip tools or your finger. Now think of this like a wall. So think of maybe that you've got a little hole in the wall or a crack in the wall, and what you would normally do is rub it down, fill it with polyfiller, wait for it to dry and sand it back. And that's kind of a similar process to what you're going to do with your silver clay as well. So if you've got ding, mark, crack, anything like that in there, then get your silver clay, fill it in, wait for it to dry, smooth it back. It's the same kind of process. So I hope that kind of helps. It will certainly help on that journey to getting your piece the better quality. So we haven't even fired anything yet. We're just making sure we're getting our piece to the best quality stage we can before we get onto the point of firing. Because if you leave all these little dings and things, they're harder to deal with much later on when they're fired. So you're best dealing with them when they're at this plaster dry stage. So you filled it ding, you've got it smooth, you've got it gorgeous. And now if I'm going to move on to creating a mirror shine finish on something. Now I know not everybody wants to do this, but I do this and I teach my students to do this. But this is where I go on to using the 3M wet and dry polishing papers. I love these papers. Now these papers have got a colour sequence: green, grey, blue, pink, mint, and there is a cream one. But to be absolutely honest, I never use the cream one because the dark side is the right side of these papers, and when it comes to the cream one, I actually can't tell. It's so fine. I guess you can rub it on your nose if you want to, but it's so fine and I can't actually tell which is the right side. So when it comes to using these, the green and the grey tend to have a bit of a tooth to them, so they are a grit, so they are fine for polishing out or getting little marks and things out of things. So if you had got a ding in your piece and you wanted to rub it back a little bit, then your green and grey are fine for that. You can use other sanding papers. I've got like sanding grits and things like that. You can use those as well, but make sure they're not too coarse. You don't want to be removing too much of your silver here. But yeah, I find the green and grey papers will sand a little area for me should I need to do that. When it comes on to trying to get this mirror finish on a piece, I'm still at plaster dry stage, then I will do a little bit of work with my blue, pink, mint papers so that I start to do a little pre-fire polishing. Now you need to use the lightest of touch here. You don't need to be rubbing hard or firmly. It will polish up really nicely. Really, sorry, I'm just checking if this is still working. This will polish up really nicely and easily. Hi Richard. Oh, I can see your comments now. I couldn't see the comments. Hi Richard. Hi Wiz. Blah blah blah. Yeah, smooth me. Thank you. But for some reason today the comments aren't showing very well. I'm sorry about that, guys. Hi Roz. Hi Wiz. Jude. Hi Jude. Monica. Hi Anna. Hiya Helen. Oh, I can see your comments now. Thank you, guys. I thought I was talking to myself. Anyway, so yeah, your blue, pink, mint papers, just use these with the lightest of touch. You don't want to press too hard. Polishing is not all about physically pushing hard. It's about the repetition rather than the pressure. So just the lightest of touch. Now what you'll achieve with these is getting your piece to I call it a pewter shine. So you'll get this really soft pearlescent kind of luster, almost a pewter look to your piece as you've polished it with these blue, pink, mint papers. And then you've really cleaned that surface up and made sure it's going to be absolutely a humdinger for coming on to polishing it up to that high-end mirror shine. Now by doing this process as well, it will always pop out any slight imperfections. Richard, I hope you don't mind I'm saying, I'm going to talk about you. One of my students, Richard, was polishing a piece yesterday and he had a little bit of a dip in his piece in the middle. And by doing this pre-fire polishing, you could really see that there was a dip in it. Otherwise, you might not have been able to tell, because you could tell because the edges were getting all the pearlescent luster, whereas the little dip in the middle was not getting that polish. So you could tell there was a little dip in this instead of it being really flush and flat. So it's things like that, or if you've got any cracks in there, it's really going to show them. So in my view, it's really worth going through those blue pink mint papers just to do a little bit of pre-fire polishing, and it'll pop up all the discrepancies that you might want to deal with before you take it to fire, because it'll certainly make it easier than after it's fired and trying to deal with it then. So that's my tip, to use those 3M wet and dry polishing papers. I love those. I use them quite a lot. They generally come in sheets of sort of A4 size, or writing paper size, and I chop them down. As you can see, I get a pair of scissors and I chop them down into smaller workable pieces. Now you can also wrap these onto wooden dowlings or onto lolly sticks or battens, whatever you want to. You can also wrap them onto things, so you've got a little bit of purchase while you're polishing. So you can always brace yourself on your rubber block or on your bench peg, and you've got a little bit of purchase by leaning against something as well. But don't forget, if you're doing that polishing at plaster dry stage, remember how fragile your pieces are. Oh. And if you press hard and firmly, then there can be some accidents there. So just treat that plaster dry piece with the greatest of respect, and then you'll be on the right tracks. So after you've done your pre-fire polishing and you're happy with the way that's going, then you're ready to move on to fire your pieces. Okay, so follow the instructions for whatever brand of clay you're using or whatever method of firing you use. Go ahead and fire your pieces. Once your pieces are fired, you will find they've got this white kind of exterior to them, and they're ready for your polishing. Now, if you're brand new to metal clay and you've never done this before, your first port of call for polishing will be to use a wire brush, a little soft brass wire brush, and you're going to use this all over the piece, back, front, this way, that way, every single bit of direction you can think of. You'll get in all the nooks and crannies as well to get into all the areas you can possibly get into. Now I recommend you do this in water, warm water usually, and a little bit of soap, just dish soap, washing up liquid, that kind of thing, will really help as well to get in all the areas. But my polishing doesn't end with a bit of wire brushing. I'll take all my pieces a little bit further on. But if you've never done metal clay before and you're absolutely new to this, and you've only ever maybe done a little starter class or watched something on YouTube, they'll probably tell you wire brushing is enough. And I know I've told students wire brushing is enough. That's if you don't have the kit and equipment to take it any further. Otherwise, you're down to hand polishing. Now you can start hand polishing with that, and taking it a little bit further, hand polishing. Now hand polishing goes back to our papers, but this time you can use these wet. Because your piece is now fired, you can start using these with a bit of water, and you can progress. I'll try that again. You can progress through all the grades of grit again. So green, grey, blue, pink, mint. I would start again, brace the piece on I've got a little piece here. Brace my piece on my little rubber block or bench peg, and you can start to hand polish. Generally putting a spritz of water onto the piece while you begin to polish. And I would just work my way through polishing by hand. Again, it's not about the pressure here, it's about the repetition. So it may take you quite a long time to work through this, and this will give you that wonderful high-end mirror finish if you've got the patience for it, because it will take quite some time. I generally say about 15 minutes with each paper, but again it'll depend on the shape and the size of your piece, and the awkward little nooks and crannies that you're trying to get into. That will depend. Again, you can fold these papers to maybe get into an awkward little corner, or in a little gap or round an edge. They're great. I love these papers. You can roll them up and you can put them with my little ring. I did have a ring in front of me and now I haven't got a ring in front of me. You can roll them up so that you can get them inside a ring, so you can polish on the inside of a ring like this. So, you know, the papers are very versatile, but it does take time. So if you're new to clay and you haven't got the, you know, the wealth of equipment around you, then hand polishing is what you'll probably be shown to do. And it is time consuming. It's not hard. It will take you time. People get tired doing it. And to be honest, when I'm teaching the diploma classes, everybody gets to learn how to hand polish from start to finish to a high-end mirror finish using our polishing papers. There's no shortcut here. You just have to work through that process. There also is these wonderful, this one's a bit mucky, but there is also these wonderful little pro polishing pads. You can get these from Metal Clay. These are like little dense foam pads, and they have some kind of abrasive within them. A very gentle abrasive, I might add, but they do have an abrasive within them, and you can start to polish with these. Now, the difference between using these and these, while you can use your 3M wet and dry papers with water, I recommend you keep water off of these. They go a bit weird. They go like sticky, and if you put 2 or 3 of them together, they end up like sticking together. They're a bit strange. So no water on these, just on your dry piece. So, you know, if you've been using your 3M wet and dry on here, and then you're moving on to one of these, then dry this off thoroughly before you move on to using these little pro polishing pads. And these are fab. As I say, you can get them from Metal Clay. You can get them from Rio Grande. There's lots of places that are around to get them. They're quite handy. But as a cheaper alternative, you might want to get to some of the pound shops or dollar stores, and you can find these nail buffing blocks, which are really quite useful as well and can do a really cracking job of polishing. So there is like a file, a shine, a smooth and a buff all the way around these. They've got that written on them. So just make sure you know they're sort of progressing in grit. So the file is a little bit coarser, and then as you go round, it gets a little bit smoother and smoother, and so on. So yeah, I would be using the smoothest one, because you can get about 4 of these for £1 in the pound shops or the beauty stores, you know, the sort of Superdrug, that kind of place. You can get loads of these from Home Bargains, any of those shops. You can pick these up for quite inexpensively, but they do the job really, really well. So once you've done all your polishing, it can be tiring on the arm and elbow grease to get all that polishing done with these papers. But the satisfaction out of having done all this polishing and getting to this point where you can see this wonderful high-end mirror shine, you'll be blown away with the effort that you've made and the finish that you can achieve. I know many people, when I'm teaching the diploma and I'm showing them how to do this, they, I say, right, we need to see your face in it like a mirror, and they don't believe they're ever going to get there, but they do eventually. It is, what it says is mirror finish. You do need to see your face in that finish. So it looks very much like traditional silver. It looks like mirror finish, and you can get there if you put the time and effort in to get to that point. And finally, if you're going to go on and patina your pieces, you perhaps patina them or not. But I'd always finish with a nice cloth, and I love these sunshine cloths. These are already impregnated with a polishing compound, but they are fabulous for finishing your piece off and just really making it zing at the end. So my sunshine cloth is my favorite one to finish. If you're going to use a sunshine cloth, you just need to use some polish and any soft cloth, something that's lint free. So a good old washed out old t-shirt does the job. or if you're in the UK, I go to Marks and Spencer's and buy their very expensive dusters, because they are amazing. They do the job beautifully too. So that's what you're going to finish with. So that's hand polishing, and I think I'll be making a video of me hand polishing something from start to finish. So I will try and get on to doing that at some point, so you can actually see me do this process. Maybe that's next week, or I'll post it in between times of doing a video of actually hand polishing in real time. So it is going to be about half an hour, 45 minutes worth of video. I'll put some music on in the background, but I want to show you in real time that you can get this amazing quality finish. It just takes effort. So keep coming back to the Workbench Wednesday page. I will probably pop a little video in there in the next week or so about, you know, hand polishing from start to finish. It's going to be boring, but you know, I want to show you it can be done. So if you are serious getting into metal clay and you want to take things a lot further, then perhaps you want to start considering investing in a piece of polishing equipment, because it will save on the RSI, repetitive strain injury, because polishing can be hard work. You know, it's repetitive, and it makes your arm ache. It does. So a piece of polishing equipment will really help you move your pieces forwards. If you're going to get into silver clay, whether you're just making for yourself, or especially if you're going to start selling pieces through a craft fair or through any means at all, then you want to get the best quality finish on them. So think about investing in a piece of polishing equipment, because it will really help. So let's look at what options are available for your polishing equipment. Now then, when it comes to any motorized polish equipment, the first thing you need to think of is safety. I would say pair of goggles. You need some safety goggles. I've got some over here. Safety goggles, and whether that's just a really small pendant motor you're going to use or some bigger tools and devices, get yourself a pair of goggles. You've only got one pair of eyes. So yeah, look after them. Pair of safety goggles. Some of the compounds can fly off, some of the dust can fly off. If you're using these little radial discs, which I'll come on to talking about a little bit later, some of the little fingers on these can fly off as well, and if they fly up in the direction of your eyes, you can, you know, cause you some damage. So safety goggles is always a good idea. And again, if you're going to get into using any of the big motor devices, or even the little ones, actually, I've got some pictures on my phone, then you want to think about, where's my picture? You want to think about using a dust mask as well, because again, some of the debris, dust mask, so you need some sort of dust mask like this, dust mask, because the debris from the compounds and things and bits of stuff just fly up in the air when you're polishing. So, you know, make sure you're keeping yourself as health and safety conscious as possible. So a good dust mask to help as well. What else? If you're using machinery, you need to make sure you haven't got big baggy sleeves like this. They would need to be pushed up, rolled up, got rid of. So you've got nothing dangling here, no bracelets, no chains around your neck, no ties, no scarves, nothing to get stuck in any of the machinery. It doesn't matter how careful you think you will be, you can never be cautious enough. So get rid of all your loose sleeves, chains, scarves, ties, anything that's dangling, just take it off, get rid of it. So you've got your mask, you've got your goggles, you've got rid of all the loose stuff. I'm just checking I'm covering all my options here. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, skirt and gloves. Don't wear gloves if you're using bench motors. There's a temptation to wear gloves, and I know I have worn gloves in the past, but if the gloves get snagged, they can rip off, which is not a good idea. But you can buy like finger tapes, or you can even get masking tape to protect the ends of your fingers while you're polishing. Because, you know, if you're holding the pieces, they can get warm, but then there are tools to help you, such as like these sort of ring clamps or things like that to hold on to pieces while you're polishing, because the friction from the polishing can make your pieces quite warm. So do think that through before you get on to your safeties. Think your safety wise first before you get on to using your polishing equipment. Now there are handheld tools and devices. I've got a couple of different things that you can use. One of the most frequent things that people ask me about is a Dremel. Yes, a Dremel is just a small handheld rotary tool. I've got a Black & Decker, which is exactly the same thing, just a different brand, does exactly the same job. And I'm sure there are other brands out there that do the same thing too. Large, chunky handheld piece, which is fine. It does the job fine. However, if you're buying one of these, it does come with a load of attachments, and the attachments tend to be for woodwork and metalwork, not particularly for jewelry making. So I would suggest that if you're going to get one of those sort of tools, then do make sure that you get the attachments that are going to be suitable for polishing your jewelry. So whether that's something like radial discs or silicone wheels or felt mops or buffs, anything like that, make sure you get the right sort of things for polishing your jewelry, rather than using the things that came in the Dremel kit, which are more for woodwork and metalwork people. All right, just make sure you're getting the right attachments and the right tools for that. So those big chunky Dremels and Black & Decker ones, they're great, do the job. As I say, get the right attachments, they'll be fine. They are quite large and quite heavy to hold. I'm getting an old person as I am these days. I wanted something that is a little bit more easier to hold. It's smaller, and this is more like the size of, you know, like hold it like a pen. So it's much easier, lighter to hold. Now this is a Fordham, okay, it's, you know, top of the range, but you can get smaller, lighter weight ones, which are for dental surgery, or nail salons often use something like this. And you can get, you look on the internet now, you can get little handheld rotary tools for your nails, and they'll do the job. Again, make sure you get the right little attachments to go with it though, yeah, to polish up your silver, and they can do the job too. Now I've also got a big, you know, Fordham, a bigger version of this, which is obviously a lot more powerful and does the job beautifully, and then has more uses than just using it for polishing. I can use it for stone setting and all sorts of things like that. But, you know, it will depend on where you are in your journey and how much money you want to pay for all these bits of equipment. So, you know, you don't need everything I've got. You just need to focus on what's right for you. What are you making, and what's the outcome of the quality of the polish and finish you want to have on your piece. These these little attachments, as you can see, I've got a whole load of different attachments here. Oh. So these are some of my favorite little attachments, and these are called radial discs. Now these little radial discs do come as, I'll just grab these behind me, do come as sort of single discs like this. They look, and then I stack a few of them together and put them onto a little spindle, and they do need to be attached correctly. In other words, the fingers are in a particular direction, so they need to be attached in the correct orientation, so that as they rotate, the fingers sort of give underneath. Not if you were to put these on the other way around, then you would find they would spin sort of against the grain, if you like. So you need to put them on in the correct orientation. So these are going to rotate and spin, and the different colours are different grades of grit. So there are lots of colours in the sequence. I tend to use just these 3 colours, the yellow being the coarsest, the blue being the mid, and the green being the finest. You can get more if you want to go through more grades of grit, but I tend to use these 3, and these do the job beautifully. Again, because they're using a motor, they're going to speed the process up really, really quickly. So they'll cut your polishing time down from hand polishing to a fraction of the time. So that's using these little polishing. Now, in addition, you can also get this little set of silicone wheels as well. And these have got a little colour sequence here. So they've got white ones, black ones, blue ones, and pink ones. And each of that colour, there are 3 different shapes I've got here. So I have, let me just fish them out. I've got a flat wheel, which is like this, which is great for polishing larger, flatter areas. And then I've got like the knife edge wheel, which is just what it says it is. It's kind of very tapered, so it'll get into really narrow little spots. And then I've got these little bullet shaped pieces, and they've got a nice taper tip on the top, and you can taper these even more by sharpening them up, a bit like a pencil. You can sharpen them up by putting them into a pencil sharpener. They are like silicone, so you can put them into a pencil sharpener, or you can just run them on a piece of sanding grit. If you just run them on the machine on a piece of sanding grit, it will taper up the end a little bit more as well. So if you blunt off your end, you can always sharpen it up again, is what I'm trying to say. So yes, the colour sequence of these again go from quite coarse to very fine grade of grit for polishing with these. So that's if you wanted to polish with the silicone wheels. Most of the time, personally, I use the radial discs, but now and again I dip into using a silicone wheel because sometimes I can get into an awkward little space, especially with those little bullet shapes as well. Now, in addition to those, you can get sort of scratch brush pieces. This one is a little scratch brush head that you can see here. And this is a little cup brush as well. You can use little cup brushes. I don't use these very much. I don't use that satin finish very often, but that's what the kind of finish you would get after using those sort of things. You can also get these, which are, I think they're called Scotch-Brite. I think they're Scotch-Brite little heads, and they remind me of a little bit of like wire wool, and they have that kind of look and feel about them, like a very fine wire wool, and they're impregnated with some kind of polish on them as well, so you can get that kind of scratch brush finish off of these as well if you wanted to use those. But they do remind me a little of wire wool, a very fine sort of wire wool feeling. These are buffs. You can get felt mops and you can get buffs. So the felt mop, this one is a flat one. You can get, again, a tapered one. So again, for getting into awkward little spaces, you can get the tip of the mop into those awkward little angles. For buffing up, you can use little felt mops. Now, you don't have to use all of these, as I say. You just kind of make your choices on which ones you want to use. And the vast majority of the time, again, I'll say it again, I use the radial discs, and that's what I use most of all. When I'm using either on my little Fordham here or on my bigger one here. This is just a little bit more powerful and lasts a bit longer if I'm polishing for a long time. So that's your little polishing wheels and things like that. So you've got lots of options on your polishing wheels, and so there's you can get different effects off these if you want to. In addition, I've also got tumblers. You can get lots of tumblers. There's different types of tumbler that you can buy as well. Now you might see in the background over here, behind me my little magnet. If I just shift this around a little bit, you'll see my little magnetic tumbler there, or my big magnetic tumbler there. That's the motor, and on top of it sits the chamber, and this is full of really tiny fine needle shot, little tiny fine pins. I'll try and come in. Little tiny fine pins that sit inside the chamber here, and I've filled it about a third of the full with water, and you need to put a little bit of polishing compound in there. Now you can get liquid polishing soaps, or you can get powder polishing soaps, so whatever you prefer. There's no not an awful lot of difference between which one you choose, but you just need a very tiny amount into the water, and they will polish your pieces up. Now you will periodically need to change your water. Be careful you don't lose your pins. A magnet helps to stop you from losing your pins, but you will periodically need to change your water as you go through here. And once you've bought one of these, you must always keep your pins in water. Although you might want to wash it out and clean it, that's fine, but the pins must remain in water forevermore. So yeah, leave them in there. The water is dirty and I need to change it, but yes. So that's my big one, but I do have a little teeny tiny one, which is a little, this one is about the size of a teacup or drinking mug. It's still got the pins in. It's about a third full of water, tiny bit of polishing compound in and there as well, and that's got a much smaller motor. This was one of the first things I ever bought, I have to say, and at the time it cost me about £300, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? But it's been worth its weight in gold, I can tell you. I wouldn't be without now. Polishing, my magnetic polishing motor is, in my opinion, if you're starting to make silver clay pieces, is a bit of a must. The polishing, the magnetic polisher substitutes you having to do this. So once you've made your piece, you can get it out of the kiln, you can drop it in straight in there, and that's going to take it from that just fired white to a really nice sheen and shine. Now you're not going to get the high-end mirror finish off the polishing machine, not off the magnetic polishing machine, but you will get a good finish on it, a really nice finish on it. So it's a must, in my opinion. I think I wouldn't be without one now, truly wouldn't be without one. Over all the bits of polishing equipment, if I had to get rid of everything, or if I never had anything, it would definitely be the first thing I'd buy all over again. It would be my polishing machine, because it just saves you so much time and effort in polishing. But most of my polishing doesn't end with just popping it into a tumbler. Now, yes, I've got the magnetic tumbler. You can get rotary tumblers as well. Now, the rotary tumbler I have at my studio is a low tone. The first rotary tumbler I ever bought was a cheap thing, which had a plastic lid and a plastic barrel, and it made a noise, and the belt slipped, and it was awful, and it leaked. So I'd never buy one of them. But the low tone is brilliant. It's a rubber barrel, but the shot is much chunkier and heavier in there. It takes about 2 or 3 hours to rotate, so while it does give your pieces a beautiful finish, it's not ideal for very delicate pieces, and there's a time constraint on this. So for classes, it's not ideal for me as a tutor teaching. 2 or 3 hours of polishing is just way too long. That can polish something up in 20 minutes, you know, to a satisfactory finish when I'm teaching. So yeah, that's a brilliant little piece of kit for the purposes of teaching, as I say. But yes, the rotary tumbler can polish things up to a really nice finish, if that's what you want. And then I have my big beastie thing, which back at my studio is quite a sizable piece. I'm just going to look for a photograph, because I can't have it here, it's just too big. But I've got a picture to show you. Let me just scroll through my pictures. So it's quite a large piece of equipment. If I turn my phone that way, I'm going to take it to you here. So you can see this is actually a bench polishing motor with 2 mops on it, and it has that big blue thing is an extractor. So if you are going to use a bench motor, It does spin at very, very high speeds, and it will throw up a lot of dust and debris into the air. So I would say that an extractor with it is an essential, because that's going to suck all the debris that's getting thrown up, all the compound and all the rest of it. That's going to suck all that away, away from your face anyway, so stop you from breathing it in. Even though you've got a mask on and goggles on, then you know the extractor will help to draw off most of that anyway. So that's an essential, but that's an amazing piece of kit as well. And if you've got space for one, then again, I can recommend it. I know there's lots of people that have gone on and bought things like dual tools, which will do pretty much the same thing as my big bench motor. I don't have a dual tool. I've never used one, but I've heard great things about them. So if you're interested in getting a dual tool, I would say, yeah, research it. Again, it's got lots of different mop heads to get different quality finishes on it. It is quite a small, compact device, and it's ideal if you've got a limited workspace. Where I am up at my studio, I've got a massive big studio, so my big bench motor is absolutely fine, does a perfect job for what I want to do, and I've had that for donkey's years. So I don't find the need to have to replace it with a dual tool, but because the dual tools have not been out that many years, certainly within the time that I've had my studio, the dual tools come out. So the dual tool is ideal as a bench polishing machine if you don't have an awful lot of space. Do some research. There's information on the internet out there about the different polishing machines. Yeah, there's free videos and things like that, I know, on the dual tools, and there's lots of people in our social media groups that have bought them as well, so have a chat along with them, because they are a great piece of kit, I believe. So there you go. Oh, I'm gonna see you. Anybody else here? Okay. Hi, Mary, you're asking what kind of foam is this. This is funky foam, so you can buy the funky foam from like the hobbycraft stores, that kind of thing. But if you go to metalclay.co.uk, they sell hang on, let me just grab one. Ooh, stretching over. They sell it like this, Mary, in a little packet, and so you can cut these to size. I basically cut these up into little wedge shapes or long strips to do different jobs. So you can buy these from metalclay.co.uk, if you want any of those. Go and have a look. They're on their website. Anybody else? Yeah. Thanks, Wiz, for posting. Yeah, ahead of me. Wiz has posted the link. I'm only just seeing all these comments separately. They were popping up last week. I can't see them now. Flex shaft. Yeah, this is your flex shaft. Oh, you can buy. Oh, yes, for the Dremel. You can buy. Oh, thanks for mentioning that. Hang on. Got another picture I can show you. So, if you've only got a Dremel, you can buy a little flex shaft attachment. Let's have a look. Yeah, you can buy this little flex shaft attachment that you can link onto your Dremel. If you haven't got a flex shaft already, you can buy that flex shaft attachment as well. So yeah, that's available. If anybody's interested in one of them, you can go and have a look at those. But yeah, I love that. So what else can I tell you? I've got all these notes here. I think what I'm going to do, because I've chatted for ages and ages and ages here, one thing I haven't talked about, I'm looking at my notes again. One thing I haven't talked about is burnishing. And burnishing can be done on pretty much any pieces. I'm not a mega fan of burnishing pieces too much. Burnishing is a technique that you can use to highlight some of your edges or surfaces of the piece. So burnishing can be done with an agate burnisher if you've got something like this, an agate burnisher, or you can use something like there are metal burnishers as well, um, or an old knitting needle do the same thing, to be honest. And to burnish, you're just very lightly going to rub over the surface. If you've got something that's with a lot of texture, you can rub over the surface. And what this will do is flatten those surface raised sections, and because it flattens them, you get more reflection, and so they look a little bit more twinkly and sparkly. You can also do this around the edge of your pieces, and it will really smooth out the edge of your pieces as well. So you can really work around the edges to smooth those off and give a nice little finish around the edges of the pieces. Now, one of the things I won't ever do or personally recommend is if you want something to be mirror shine and it's just a big flat surface area, do not burnish this, because you end up with like streaks and stripes in it. In order to get that mirror finish on this, just polish it in either by hand using these or using your tools and devices with your various wheels, whether that's your silicone wheels, your radial discs, or your felt mops, or on a big motor or something like that. So yeah, you can get your mirror finish from polishing rather than burnishing. But that's just my personal preference. I don't like burnishing too much. I think things can look over burnished, and you can really tell that sometimes you can see these scratches and lines and marks and things. So just be careful about that. That's all I would say about those little bits and pieces. Hi Nikki, I remember sitting in all evening at the B&B polishing for my exam rings. Yes, I know, I'm wicked like that, aren't I? Yeah, so if anybody's doing their diploma or thinking about doing their diploma, do be prepared to do the hand polishing, whether that's during the class or as homework. It's quite an important part of certainly the level 1. You do have to hand polish your pieces. You have to prove that you can do this from start to finish. As I say, I've got a huge amount of notes here on polishing and finishing. So I think what I'll do is I've talked all about the different bits of equipment, but I think I would like to show you some demonstrations on the different polishing and finishing techniques. So I think over the next week or so, I'll prepare a couple of videos to show you these examples. I did get all these little test pieces made that I was going to try and do different polishing. Look, I've got loads of them. I was going to try and do little different polishing finishes on them to show you, but yeah, something's happened this morning that prevented me from getting that done. So I will post some videos of different polishes and finishing techniques, and I will illustrate what I use to get that finish, and hopefully that will help you with your polishing finishing. And as I say, really think about polishing and finishes as part of your design process. Don't make it the afterthought. Don't think of, oh, this is what I want to make. Do a nice little sketch, get it all prepared, get it all made, and then the point at which you're firing it, you've dismissed the rest then, because all you're going to do is polish it. Well, now all you're going to do is really polish it properly, and the quality of your polish and finish will really stand out from the crowd if you put that effort in. And if you're making to sell, you need to show your pieces are amazing, and that quality of finish will really make a difference. So having gone through all the options, as I say, you don't need every piece of equipment here. You just need maybe one or two, and think carefully about what it is you do choose. There are cheaper sort of alternatives on the market. I would say think carefully about buying some cheap alternatives, because maybe in the long run you'll only end up wanting the better thing and then having spent the money that you could have spent on the better thing in the first place. But that's the way I see it. So think carefully about your polishing and finishing. So there we go. Has anybody got any other comments they want to make on polishing and finishing today? Oops, I'm losing you. Hey. Great idea, different videos. Yeah, I'll do the different videos during the week, and I'll post them on this page. So yeah, over the next couple of days I'll get onto that. I have got a little plan for tomorrow, and Friday I'm teaching all day. So maybe Saturday or Sunday I'll get onto doing the videos. So it might be early next week before I actually get them on there. I'm just trying to be as honest as I can, knowing what I've got coming up. So if that's okay with you guys, thank you so much. I hope it really helps you think about how you're going to finish your pieces and which direction you want to go in. You want some information on different polishing compounds? Okay, I'll make a note of that, Nikki. Thanks for that. I'll do my best. I don't use 100,000 different things. I'll be honest. I've just got a few. I know there's lots and lots of things out there, but there's just a few. Again, you don't need everything. You just need a few things that work well. So I'll say thank you very much. I think I've yacked enough today. I hope that's of some help, and I look forward to seeing you next week with something else I'm going to chit chat about. So in the meantime, I will get on to doing those vids, and look forward to seeing you again soon, folks. Thank you. Cheerio. Bye-bye.